Alright, hi guys. Today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about Genshin next super hype character, which is my wife, Xilonen. Alright, just right off rip, Xilonen is an insane character. To put it simply, she's basically another Kazuha, but you know, she's hot. You should already be pulling out your wallet by this point, but in case you wanted some extra detail, I'll quickly summarize her kit in a simple way, because I mean look at this. What is this? This is just a skill. Ain't no one reading all that, except I read it, because, you know, I'm making the video. I read it, but yeah, you don't have to. Alright, so for starters, she is a Geo sword user, and she scales off defense. She is primarily a support, as you may have guessed, because I called her a Kazuha replacement. Her bread and butter, and what makes her so good, is her skill, Yohuo Scratch. Firstly, when you press the skill, she will dash forward and do a little bit of defense scaling damage, and then she will enter Night Soul Blessing and put on her rollerblades, kinda like how Morlani hops on a shark. She moves quickly while in this Night Blow set. She moves quickly while in this Night Blows. She moves quickly while in this Night Soul Blessing state, and her attacks will be infused with Geo, which cannot be overridden, and do extra damage scaling off defense. Now what makes this skill really good is that she will generate 3 Geo source samples, and for each party member who is Pyro, Hydro, Cryo or Electro, one of these Geo samples will change into that corresponding element. Then, via her passive talent, whenever she attacks, she will regenerate 35 Night Soul points, capping out at 90 points total. Once she is capped on Night Soul points, she will shred nearby enemies' elemental resistance based off her source sample elements, essentially doing the same thing as the VV set. Keep in mind, just activating her skill will generate 45 Night Soul points, so you only need to on-field her for 2 or 3 attacks before you shred everything. It sounds complicated, but to boil it down, it's simply just switching her on-field, use her skill, attack 2 or 3 times, and you apply a massive 36% elemental resistance shred for your whole team, even when she's off-field. Now one caveat to this is that you need to have at least 2 source samples that have had their elemental types changed in order to generate Night Soul points for your passive, which essentially means you can only shred Geo in mono or triple Geo teams if you run her on field as a main DPS. In such cases, she does gain a 30% damage bonus to her normal attacks, so it is a possible option. However, to really make her shine as a main DPS, you will need her C6, so I'm guessing for most players who are planning to run her as an off-field support, you will want to make sure there's at least 2 units which are Pyro, Hydro, Electro or Cryo. Another important thing to note is that Xilonen can climb and even dash up walls during her Night Soul Blessing, so her skill is amazing for exploration. In fact, her rollerblade state lasts even longer than Morlani, and travelling further distance. As for her burst, she will deal AoE Geo damage scaling with her defense, and if you have at least 2 source samples that have changed into another element, she will continuously heal your active character for a decent amount. If you don't have at least 2 source samples that have changed elements, then she will just do another 2 additional hits of AoE Geo damage. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly go over her general build. This is just going to be a quick section. For her artifact set, you want to run the new Natlan support set, Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City, which boosts the entire team's elemental damage by 40% whenever Xilonen triggers an elemental reaction while in her Night Soul Blessing state. This is really the only option for Xilonen. It's just so good that there's no point running anything else. Additionally, Xilonen is so easy to build that substats don't really even matter on her. She just mainly wants defense percent main stat on all of her artifacts. And of course for substats, you can just go defense percent and elemental recharge. Those are the only good options. You can get crit if you want to on-field her as a DPS or if you're using the Fervonia sword. As for weapons, best in slot is her signature weapon, Peak Patrol, which is honestly insane, and Refinement Money gives a 82.7% defense stat, and when a normal or plunging attack hits an opponent, defense is increased by additional 6%, stacking twice with a 0.1 second cooldown. When this effect reaches 2 stacks, all party members get an additional 12% elemental damage bonus for each 1000 defense Xilonen has, up to a maximum of 36%. So you want to get 3000 defense on Xilonen if you're running this signature weapon. Some other options include the Natlan free-to-play craftable Flute of Espital, or the Fervonia sword for energy, or Cinnabar Spindle if you have that from the Albedo event. I'm also going to quickly go over her constellations because honestly they can be quite impactful. Her C1 grants your active character interruption resistance, which can be good on certain characters such as Constellation 0 Neuvillette, which also happens to be on one of Xilonen's best teams. Her C2 looks absolutely insane. In fact, it was already really good, and then in the recent beta changes, Hoyoverse buffed it even more. So now Xilonen grants all party members bonus effects. For Geo characters, they gain 50% damage, Pyro characters gain 45% attack, Hydro characters gain 45% HP, which by the way is absolutely insane. Like, I'm not a theory crafter, but I'd wager that's like a huge damage bonus for Neuvillette teams. Cryo gains 60% crit damage, and Electro has a more interesting and niche effect where they restore 25 energy and lowers elemental burst cooldown by 6 seconds. C3 and C5 are of course just talent level upgrades, nothing notable there. Her C4 gives Xilonen off-field damage after she uses her skill, so she basically becomes a sub-DPS on top of being already an insane support. And her C6 allows her to be played as a main DPS while giving her a party-wide heal, which is nice for arena comps. As for teams, she's a very flexible unit. She is essentially a Kazuha replacement, so any team where you can run Kazuha, you can probably swap her in. However, I want to quickly mention that one of her best teams, which involves Kazuha actually in the same team, is Neuvillette, Furina, Xilonen and Kazuha. The combined buffs and resistance shred from Xilonen and Kazuha is just insane. I'm guessing this team's going to be absolutely cracked, not that it already isn't. But anyways, yeah, that's it for the video. See ya.